Hello and welcome to this presentation. My name is Per Roald Leikanger and I will be talking about navigating conceptual space, a new take on AGI. So first of all, I would like to tell that I have been more inspired by psychology and neuroscience than I have on today's AI. And in particular, I've been looking into the very beginning of the field, psychology as a science. I have looked at the cognitive revolution. So, well, in the very beginning, psychologists were looking into the behavior. Pavlov and others were measuring physical responses to, for example, Pavlov's bell or other conditioned responses. And had this simple view that the change in behavior was the learning aspect. You must also remember that in this era of time, religion and science was closely connected. And people were believing in a soul. So the change in behavior was an aspect of the soul or something of the kind. Well, at least for human beings. So how do you study thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and plans? That was the big question in this area, and in the early 20th century, they had no mental concept. It was a soul or change in physiology. In in the 1930s, Tolman did this very inspiring, interesting experiment where he had mice in a maze, and one group got rewarded every time they got out of this maze, as you can see here. The regularly rewarded rats, they performed much better than the ones without food reward. What really amazed Tolman was that the group that had no food reward until day 10, but then given a food reward, they actually performed better than the group that was regularly rewarded. And this was not very easy to explain according to behaviorism. So Tolman started, he discussed something that he called latent learning and a cognitive map. So basically that you learn about the environment without necessarily have to act upon it. So behavior and learning became distinct aspects of learning. Later, O'Keefe and Nadell, they were the first to find specific neurons that were active whenever you're located on a specific place in a box. So they call this the place cell. And one cell, what they measured was that one cell was active whenever the rat or the mouse or the animal was within its receptive field. So in other words, you have this geometric conditional where the neuron is active, meaning it has a higher firing frequency, whenever the animal is within this receptive field. So we are talking about geometric conditional. Further, since this time, many other Euclidean conditional cells, or what I've referred to as neural representation of Euclidean space cells, or NRES cells, have been discovered. For example, the grid cell by Hafting and the Mosers. That was, well, this discovery was an important part of the 2014 Nobel Prize. From the same group, you have Øyvind Højdahl and others have discovered the object vector cell on the lower left-hand side. And in this work, I will look into these two NS modalities. I will focus on the place cell, and I will look at object vector cell, meaning the relative location of objects around you. During the previous 5 years, researchers have also found that the same group of, or the same structures are involved in more conceptual navigation. So NRES cells, and I believe in particular the grid cells, I'm not sure about that, have been measured to be important for example, navigating into the right form in this particular example. Well, it looks like navigation is an important part in thinking. I will come back to this later on in the presentation. But first, we shall look into how this geometric conditional could be used in an agent for navigation purposes. And this is based on the 2021, well, my presentation in A-Life earlier this year. Based on individual cells, similar to the NLES cells, you could say that the agent, here represented in blue, has a position in the box. And whenever this position is within the activation or the receptive field of one cell, you could say that this cell or this signal is activated. So here represented in red, you could say that when the blue dot is in the red field, you get this signal, or this signal becomes high. This could, of course, be used as the reinforcement signal for reinforcement learning, and we get a traditional grid world example, as is common to use in introductory reinforcement learning tasks. I've drawn up some arrows to represent the Q field in this state set. So basically, what I show here is that it's possible to use a single cell as the reward signal for one agent or one learner, as I referred to it in the A-Life presentation. And you could have one such learner for every field in the place or in this map. So basically, this particular representation could have 25 different learners. And by this, well, the summed Q field of these 25 learners, you could get a decent navigation. I did an experiment where I see that there's a link between the resolution of the field and the proficiency of the agent. And well, to me, this was a very important result because it shows that there is a mechanism, underlying mechanism that is working here. However, it's very difficult to find the right resolution. And again, let's be inspired by neuroscience, where we have multiple different receptive fields in the hippocampus. So basically, from the dorsal to the ventral side of the hippocampus, you can see this steady increase in receptive fields. Based on this, I did a new experiment with multi-resolution layout. And this was highly successful. You can see in the multi-feature set, N3, N7, and 23 performs much better than the sum of all the others here, drafted in gray. Okay, so that's the background, the theory of how NRES is working. And I recommend everybody who are interested to look into the A-Life publication, Decomposing the Prediction Problem, Autonomous Navigation by Neural. So in this work, I will be looking into the challenge of autonomous navigation with regards to large Euclidean spaces that are not really, well, it's difficult to say, to know the form or the dimensionality of these spaces. And Kilpling's concerns, especially the aspect on whether it's generalizable, meaning that you can navigate one field based on auxiliary information. Well, basically, you could say that you have information about the object vector cell information, for example, the relative location of other objects, or other information than the place cell. So what we've seen earlier is that the navigation of the entity, the blue entity, with regards to its objectives or what's to be avoided, has been with respect to the position of those things. In this, well, I could start a simulation while explaining, because this is quite interesting. We are here talking about the well, the agent right now has no knowledge about this world, apart from having this multi-resolution input of or representation of the space. It knows about the other the position of external objects. It knows about its own position, and it encodes this in the place cell or object vector cell representation. Each entity has a allocentric position. It has this velocity. So the actions of the agent will only change this velocity by acceleration. So there's inertia. So in this environment, I will just leave it going up in the top right corner. So if you, yeah. But first of all, we should look into whether this is generalizable. Generalizable means that it could, for example, use the object vector cell information instead of the place cell representation. And I did exactly that. I did that by vector subtraction, and it's a quite naive representation of the object vector cell. And I believe that if I do a better job, I will it will become the results will become better. But right now, both aspects are in Cartesian coordinates to make this easy to follow. For these two agents, or well, basically it is exactly the same agent, but it is exposed to these different forms of information. So first agent on the left-hand side is based on the place cell representation. So this is what comes out of the environment. And the other representation on the right is based on the emulated object vector cell representation. And we can see that it works very well to use this emulated object vector cell representation for navigating the place cell field. So the neo-RL approach is general. And by the way, as some of you can see now, the agent is quite active and it is really learning in the simulation on the top right corner. Secondly, we are interested in whether it's compositional or incremental, that the agent can be based on more than one representation at one time. And this is easy to do by just adding them together. The neo-RL value function is based, well, it is a super function on all the agents or the learners that are involved. And this results in this plot where you can see now the place cell modality and the object vector cell modality and the combined modality. So basically combining experience across both modalities gives very good results. And this is the emulation you see in the top right corner of this presentation as well. Just as a note on the axis of this figure, agent proficiency is measured in the number of green guys that is caught per second relative to the numbers of red aversive elements. And on the x-axis, you can see the runtime in minutes. And as you can see in the emulation, it is really effective. Now it's been running for 10 minutes, and it is starting to actually behave quite well. So the neo-RL navigation, it's distributed across any state. You have this online neo-RL navigation that happens in real time. In addition, neo-RL can combine value function across state spaces. This is results from earlier, the decomposing paper combined state spaces across different resolution representation. But now we've seen that it's also possible across modalities. So it's general across different modalities. It's compositional. And as you can see in the top right corner, it's very effective when it comes to navigation. So back to neuroscience. This is, well, here you can see papers from the previous 5 years in computational neuroscience, frontiers in computational neuroscience, in science neuroscience, in Nature and other very high-class journals. And the neuroscience community is really looking into this aspect of conceptual navigation as a metaphor or analogy for thought. Well, in this presentation, this work, I am proposing that we should perhaps do the same. And by the neo-RL agent, I've also in this work shown that it is possible to do such navigation in artificial agents. Thank you very much, and I hope there is time for some questions. I don't know how that works, but thank you.